Hello, everyone. The 49ers just finished drafting. Other teams still going. Niners done. Thank you so much, Kyle and John. What a weekend present. I love it. We can start early. I thought we were going to be waiting until like 5 o'clock to talk, but now we can do it. Now, I'm joined with Jack Hammer, who's been joining me after all of these rounds and doing a great job. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Grant?
I'm doing great. I've never been so positive about a draft. And I think what happens is I spend all off season doing the mock drafts and trying to help the 49ers because I'm quality control, and they never listen. And they do all this other stuff, and I take it personally, and I give them an F. This year, I feel like they took all of my suggestions, and I give them an A. Well, I don't know if I'm going to give them an A, but I'm very, very positive about it. And basically, I think I'm just flattered that they listen and they take us, you and I, so seriously. So what I want to do is, instead of just gushing over it because I could, let's go pick by pick, starting with the last one and move our way up and grade each one, talk about how we feel. And then we'll finish off with some big picture stuff on like the strategies and tag.
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's good.
The first pick, the last pick, round 6, the running back, Elijah Mitchell. This is this Elijah Mitchell. This is the second running back the Niners took. He runs a 4.3. He's kind of like Raheem Mostert in the sense that he should be really good at special teams. He could become a running back, but it seems like they're hoping more of a special team contribution right away. What do you think? Second running back taken.
Yeah, I like what he's the 49ers added a lot of size to the running back room in the last week. They went between Mitchell's a 217-pound back, so he's not only is he fast at 4.3, but he's got some size. He's got the size that they don't have in Mostert, so hopefully they get that durability from him. So if I was going to grade him, I'm going to give him a B, solid B. On that selection. Yeah. I think it's definitely a depth. I didn't think much about the special team side of it, but watching him run the ball, you can see the physicality that he'd bring.
I don't mind the pick at all. At first I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Are you pushing Raheem Mostert off the team? What's going on? But to run first team, they had to start Jerick McKinnon 4 times last year. They started Tevin Coleman any number of times the last couple of years. I think A minus. I like it. And I like the fact that they didn't take a wide receiver here. Everyone was expecting they would take a wide receiver. No, they're a run first team. Do they need a slot receiver? They have River Craycraft. They have Richie James Jr., who I like. They have Jalen Hurd, who is still young. They have guys. They have Travis Benjamin, Mohamed Sanu. Do they have Mohamed? They have Mohamed Sanu, right? I think they have.
Yeah, they do have Mohamed Sanu. They've got Kyle Juszczyk, who they got to get more involved, and they should be able to. They got Ross Dwelly, so there's really not a need to spend a pick. And I had that same feeling as you when I first saw the pick. I was like, what are they doing? Another running back? And then I sat and I thought about our conversation from last night, and I was like, no, this makes sense with the direction that they're going. Yeah,
I actually like it better than a wide receiver. And one of my favorite things from this draft is that they didn't draft a wide receiver. I love that. So I like this pick. I'm going to give it just an A. It's a 6th round pick. He's a running back, and Bobby Turner's the running back coach. I mean, would we be surprised if this guy's like leading? He's like the league's leading rusher in 3 years. No, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. He's fast. He's getting great coaching, and he's in a great system for him. You know, I think it was 10 years ago that the Shanahans drafted Roy Halou in round 3. And Alfred Morris in round 6, and Morris was the one who worked out. So don't write this guy off. He could be a factor.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yep. That's all from that same draft that all built their 2012 team that made the playoffs.
Absolutely. So I like this. Good pick. You give it a B. I'm just going to give it an A. So let's move on to round 5. They made 3 picks in round 5. This was the last one. Tanaloa Hufanga, safety from USC, which I'm going to try not to hold against him. So what do you think of this pick?
Yeah, I think this one I give an A minus. He's a really good defensive back who probably would have been gone a lot sooner if he didn't have the injury concerns, because this is the guy that was a consensus first-team All-American, and he was a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2020. And so, if he didn't have the collarbone and the shoulder separation issues that he had, he probably would have been a guy that had been gone yesterday. Into either a second or a third round guy. So I really like this pick.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more critical of it than you, but I'm not going to be particularly critical today. I'm going to give it a B because of the injury thing. Yeah, he's a good player. He is a playmaker, and they don't have that in their secondary. But the injury thing, it's like Jaquiski Tartt has the same issue. Jimmy Ward has the same issue. That's the only guy they drafted that has an injury issue, but I'm not going to give it an A for that reason. I'm not going to give it a D or a C. I like it. And if he stays healthy, it seems like he, maybe more than any of the DBs they drafted, has the potential to become an impact starter, which is great. You want to take a guy like that at the end of round 5. He's got high upside, but the downside is he's hurt all the time. And he gets hurt by separating the shoulder, breaking collarbones. Seems like poor technique. If the Niners could fix that, that'd be great, but they haven't fixed it with Jaquiski Tartt, who's had this issue for years and years and years. So I like the pick. The best they could definitely do at the end of round 5, but I'm not going to say anything more than a B just because I have to be a little bit salty at some point.
Yeah, the fact that they took this guy in 5, though, that's a good spot for a guy with his injury history compared to what we've seen with previous years. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good spot for a guy like him to go.
Yeah, and again, I think we should also be analyzing with these picks at the end of the draft what they're going to do on special teams, because they're going to have to do something on special teams to make the team. The previous one, Elijah Mitchell, could be a gunner. Hufanga would be more of like a guy who would come down the field and take your head off. Does he have that in him?
He looks like he's a guy that's going to be more like a box safety kind of guy. Like he's not really good. He's got athleticism, but he's a physical player. So he's a guy that could be, that role like they kind of tried to use at points last year where they started using their strong safety almost as their third linebacker. Yeah. He's a guy that could fit that role really well.
Okay, so we're both positive on that pick. Let's move on to Yamador Lenoir. Maverick, if he were on, would be able to tell us non-stop about this guy, but we'll get him later this week. He went to Oregon. This guy went to Oregon. What do you think of this pick, and how do you think he fits in the future plans, immediate plans?
It's another pick that, between him and Ambry Thomas, the other corner they picked, they're both very similar. They're shutdown guys, and that's what Lenoir was at Oregon as well. He's a shutdown guy who, I saw some of what Mav said, and he talked a little bit about him being able to shut down N'Keal Harry when he went up against him.
Oh, wow.
So that's very, I was really high on Cam Bynum, who ended up going in the 4th round. So this guy seems very similar to him. I think it's a pretty good pick. I'd give it a B+.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B as well. It seems like he may not have the physical profile to play outside in the NFL. I know he did it in the Pac-12 and was good, went against N'Keal Harry, but running 4.5, 5'11", that's tough unless he's just a savant in zone coverage. So I think maybe the vision here for him is nickel. And if he becomes a starting nickel for them down the line, that's great because that's a starting position. My question is, can you really find a starting nickel in round 5? Yeah, you can. I mean, DJ Reed, you can. It's just, I think it's harder to find starting DBs on day 3 than it is to find other positions. I just think, I don't know. He's got good pedigree. He's played well. My question, I guess, with all of these DBs is, are any of them really going to become starters? It's great that you got depth, but you have some issues with like K'Wan Williams and Jason Verrett where they miss time. And you really would like someone who could kind of step in and play like a starter. And my question with these guys are, will they ever get to that point? Maverick could answer that better than us. So I'll give it a B. I like it. Very good depth piece.
Yeah, both of these guys that they picked up this year are guys that have the ability to play multiple spots. They can play inside, outside. You even saw Thomas in the one bowl game rotate at one point up to safety. So these guys have flexibility. And I hear what you're saying. I just go back to the fact that they have an undrafted free agent starting on one side of their defense right now that I think, these guys are going to be able to they have that same, they're a little bit bigger than him, and I think they can come in and possibly really give him a push.
Certainly. They could absolutely exceed expectations. I just feel like, as you pointed out, the versatility, they've been drafted to do everything backups. And if they do more, then great. But if they're do everything backups who excel on special teams, then they're great 5th round picks. And that's the expectation. Of course, they could exceed them. Look at George Kittle. But I guess my only quibble, I'll get into this later, is just I guess I'll just get into it later. I don't want to talk about my only quibble yet. I like the pick, Yamador Lenoir, B, and you give him a B+. So
yeah, let's come back to this later. Back to this later because there's something that I want to talk about with both Lenoir and Thomas later on. Okay,
we'll definitely talk about the DBs. Jalen Moore, this was the first pick the 49ers made in round 5 on day 3. He's an offensive tackle from Western Michigan. I was surprised the Niners took an offensive tackle. For so long, they've been saying they have no issues at offensive tackle. Of course they do. They addressed it early in the draft. What did you think? Earlier.
I think this one really isn't so much about him playing offensive tackle. It's about his ability to play guard. So, and I'm writing this up right now as part of my kind of draft. I just finished writing it up. My draft recap is he's got that ability to play guard and tackle. The guy that they draft, look for him. He's going to be competition for Justin School and Sean Coleman. Okay. Those are the two guys that Sean Coleman is back, but he's a veteran at the end of his rope as far as his contract goes. School's the guy they drafted, so this would give him a guy to replace to really battle with both of those guys. Yeah, and he was a tight end. That's what he was originally recruited to be. A lot of athleticism.
Yeah, and he went to a directional school in Michigan, just like Joe Staley. Not the same one. Staley went to Central. This guy went to Western. Yes. Where did Saleh go? Northern? I don't know. But anyway, they're all related somehow. It got
I think he went to Western.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jalen Moore. I like the pick a lot. I was surprised that the Niners doubled up at offensive line, but I think it's great. I mean, I was like, wow, this is a big step for you guys. 2 offensive linemen with their first 5 picks. And this one has the versatility to play tackle. I mean, it seems like he has – I mean, Justin School hasn't shown much the last 2 years. Daniel Brunskill has gotten moved inside. They need a guy like this. Sean Coleman's been hurt a lot. I think this is an A pick. I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yes. Bold pick, smart pick, almost out of character. Let's go back to the picks from the first 2 days. We've addressed these before, but we've had a little more time to think about them. Let's give a final grade to 3rd-round pick Ambry Thomas, cornerback from Michigan.
I give the Thomas pick. I give that one a solid B as well. I just think he fits the direction that they're going in their scheme on defense, and we saw them go much more man heavy last year, and that's part of that is getting Sherman out of there and Verrett in, and he's going to give them that ability to be a good solid backup behind Verrett.
Yeah, I would give it a B as well. And not that there were better corners they could have gotten there. It's just when you wait until the 102nd pick to take a corner, you're going to get a B. Most of the time, unless you get lucky. It's just very difficult to find an A corner that late in the draft. It's a position that is premium, that requires premium athleticism, and it's pretty easy to scout. You just see them cover the best wide receivers, and if they can do it, they can do it. Also, if they're in the Senior Bowl and they do the one-on-one drills, it becomes pretty freaking easy. So the Niners got a guy who sat out, who has high upside, who has potential, but really the expectation is something along the lines of what Tavarius Moore has given in the last few years. High-level backup, maybe someone who's not ever really a starter, although you wouldn't rule it out. Fred Warner became a starter as a third-round pick. I guess I would have liked a little more urgency with the cornerback stuff. We'll talk about that later, but you can't do everything. I'll give it a B. I like it.
Okay.
Yep. And who knows? I mean, I haven't watched that much Ambry Thomas. We're going to be doing, we have a lot of homework to do the next few months. Jack, we're going to go through all these guys and give film breakdowns, and maybe as we watch them, we'll fall in love. Who knows? This is just a gut reaction based on what the Niners needed and what, you historically get at these spots.
Yep. We haven't been able to do that deep dive yet.
No, and we will. I'm looking forward to it. Trey Sermon. Niners traded up 2 picks in round 4 to get Trey Sermon at 88.
Yep. Yeah, this is an A+ for me. I love this pick. I think it's just a tremendous pick for him. I think he's a really good back, really fits what they need, and he gives them that. Again, it's that whole physical. Their first 3 picks were all about physical. We're going to pound you. We're going to run at you. It's really exciting kind of football that I really like to watch.
Yeah, I love this pick too. Now, the question, my basic issue with the draft is that they didn't take a corner soon enough. I'm looking at the corners they took this guy over. I mean, really, there weren't any corners for the 10 picks, and then there were that run on where it was Sean Wright, Elijah Molden, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and then Ambry Thomas. So it seems like the Niners read the draft board correctly. When you jumped into the late 80s, there were not corners getting taken there, and they mentioned if they wanted to get a really good outside corner, they were going to need to get basically Paulson Adebo was the end of their. That's what I like. 76. Paulson Adebo went to the Saints. That's what I'm saying. If you want to get a quality corner, they pretty much dry up after 75. So They didn't have it. I mean, they wanted to take the guard in round 2. That's legit. That's fine. That's a huge need as well. The highest they could jump up was 88. The corners were gone. They got this running back who's a freaking stud. I mean, if you want to be a run-first team, you could argue that Trey Sermon is best fit for what the Niners want to do. If they're going to kind of convert to a Washington-style, Greg Roman-style offense with, the quarterback being leveraged as a threat every time, Trey Sermon was great at that at Ohio State and fits that better than maybe Najee Harris or Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely fits it better than either of those two guys because their quarterbacks weren't really used in that manner in college.
Lucky Louise says John Lynch just said he's encouraged by Jalen Hurd's rehab. Well, I would hope.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged too. But it's easy to be encouraged when the guy's not practicing or running or hitting or doing anything that resembles football. So I hope he does okay, though.
Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to see him be able to play again. He's only played one preseason game so far.
I know Niner fans are like, hey, man, this has got to be good news for Jalen Hurd. Encouraging signs that they didn't draft a wide receiver. I read it more as good news for River Craycraft. This got to be a big vote of confidence for River. I'm serious, River. If you're watching at home, they like you, man. They really like you. Good stuff. Michael Mock says, did you see how hard the comments were mentioning you and wanting you to ask a question? Yeah, that's the only reason I asked the question. I didn't have any questions. I liked the draft. I knew everyone was going to say, so tell us about Tanaloa Hafanga, and I didn't need to be. But so you asked me, so I asked him. I asked Kyle to speak about supercharging the run game, and all he did was say, I didn't mean to do that for about a minute and a half. And I was like, okay, fine. Okay, all right, that's fine. That's okay. He's like, yeah, they just made the picks as they came. All right, Kyle. Okay, man. All right. We'll just see how it works out then. That's fine.
Super defensive.
I should have just been like, this is for John. Kyle, this is not for you. All right. Round 2, the Niners traded back. This is key. They traded back for Aaron Banks. They said he was their target all along. I'll believe him. And by trading back, they were able to get a 4th-round pick, which they packaged to move up for Trey Sermon. That should be part of the grade here. What do you think?
Yeah, again, this is an A for me. I think he's a really good player. He doesn't fit the typical mold of a Shanahan guard, but he has the athleticism that he needs. But he brings just a toughness to the position that I think matches up really well with what they think they have in the left tackle in Williams. He just seems like he's a finisher. He's a big dude that he's going to maul you in the run game, and he can beat you in pass protection as well.
I just love that they spent so much capital on a guard. They haven't done that yet. I mean, Laken Tomlinson was a 1st-round pick, but they traded a 5th to get him. And then they've been going bargain bin shopping at right guard consistently since Josh Garnett didn't work out. Michael Person and freaking whoever it was last year, Tom Compton. I'm glad that they're done with that. And now they've got Aaron Banks at 1, Jalen Moore, if he doesn't work out at tackle. Those could be the 2 starting guards long-term. I think that's great. And I think it also signals a schematic shift for this team. He wouldn't talk about it. But for so long, Kyle Shanahan's been trying to get to the edge on outside zone, and he's so good at it. Raheem Mostert's so great at it. Kittle's such a good blocker. I feel like the whole league is adjusted to try to take it away with those 6-man fronts and those wide 9 stuff, and Kyle's adjusting too, and he's beating you right between the tackles, which is interesting.
Yeah, and these guys, and both of them are very athletic. And so they're going to be able to still handle that outside zone, those reach blocks and things like that. But they're also going to be able to just drive you and pound you inside as well. It's really nice.
Absolutely. So I think this pick is great. Now, again, I think when we look at this down the line, we're going to be looking more not in a vacuum of who the player is, but really when you grade these drafts down the line, it's who got picked after that guy and was he better? So let's, for the sake of it, look at where he went and who went after, especially considering my main issue is the cornerback thing. So Asante Samuel Jr. went 1 spot before Aaron Banks. They could have gotten him had they not traded down, but had they not traded down, they wouldn't have got Trey Sermon. After Aaron Banks was Rondale Moore, good player, but a wide receiver. Azeez Ojulari, good player, edge rusher. Maybe the Niners will regret not taking him. Then you got Sam Cosmi, Jeremiah Owusu, linebacker, Dylan Radins. I'm not seeing corners. I'm not really seeing it. So, I mean, it really wasn't there. The corners went higher in round 2, and that's why I don't really believe them when they say that this guy was their pick, was their target all along. When they traded down, I kind of felt like they missed out on whatever DBs they might have liked and then made, an executive decision. It seems like the right decision because there weren't any more corners after that until about Paulson and Debo in round 3.
Yeah, there might have been some corners that they had higher on their board that they were hoping to fall to them. I don't think they really had the firepower. I don't think they really had the firepower to jump up earlier in that second round just because of what the cost was. So I think that you're right. There's definitely could be some truth to what you're saying, and that they lost. Those guys came off the board, so they said, this is our next guy. Let's go ahead and trade back. We're going to be able to get him.
I mean, really, after Tyson Campbell went with the 33rd pick, the cornerback market was kind of dried up. A lot of them went at the late round 1. That's just how it goes every year. If people look at you as a potential starting corner with upside, you're not going to make it past pick 35. It's just too important. So you can't get everything. The Niners didn't get that. If Jason Verrett stays healthy, this team is really good. If he doesn't, that's their problem. Every team has, I guess, a position like that. So what are you going to do? Last pick. Trey Lance. What do you think of this Trey Lance guy? Have you heard the Niners drafted a quarterback with their first pick, Trey Lance? They traded up to get him. What do you think? Like when we grade this, we have to take that in mind. It's not just that they got him at 3; it's that it's the first round pick for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because I'm okay with the fact that because they kept all of the remaining picks for this year, and they still have their own third round pick next year, so it is only the first round. So for me, I'm going to give it an A-. If it wasn't for those picks, I'd probably give it an A+, but I'm going to go A- because of those 2 first-round picks. But I'm not going to downgrade it too harsh. Yeah,
I'm going to give it an A- as well because it's just going to be very hard for him to live up to the expectations that they created, not him, that they created by moving up. That's not his fault. Now, I'm not going to put it in the B range because I do think he has the potential to justify it. Which is why they got him, which is why they picked him and not Justin Fields. I think he has the potential to pull it off. It's going to be tough. Someone like Kyle Pitts would have been more of a sure thing, but Kyle Pitts isn't a quarterback. If you have a great quarterback, that's more transcendent than a great tight end. And if you can be that, then this is an A+ pick. It's the best pick since Joe Montana. So yeah, I really like it. They swung for the fences. Justin Fields would have been the wrong pick. Mac Jones would have been the wrong pick. I know you like him, but I just like that an offensive guru like Kyle is extending himself and taking on a project and something that maybe other people would fail with, and he's saying, I can do it. Let's see you do it, man. I think you can.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I mean, I was a Mac Jones fan, but Trey Lance, got to remember, Trey Lance was the number 2 on my list, so and he wasn't that far behind. So I'm fine with Trey Lance. It's not. I would be if it had been Justin Fields, my take wouldn't be quite as high. But I really like Trey Lance. I've liked him throughout the process when I started rewatching him.
I think Mac Jones is a really good fit for what the Patriots are doing. They have more of a shotgun offense. That's sort of what he did in college, and I think he's going to be great getting the ball in the shotgun, making quick decisions, getting the ball out of his hands. Trey Lance, it's intriguing to think of what the offense could become with him on it. I think we were thinking of, Mac Jones could definitely execute with Jimmy Garoppolo. No question. But now with Trey Lance, this offense is going to be different, and I'm really excited to see what that is.
Yeah, I think our conversation last night, the more that I thought about that I think you're so right on with everything that they've done as far as, go back to Roethlisberger's rookie year and RG3 season. That's what they built.
No question.
Throughout this process. Most
people would give a young quarterback wide receivers. The Shanahans will give you a running game, and you could argue that's the right approach. I mean, it's a lot easier to hand the ball off than to throw it. Yeah,
but he's also got pretty good skill positions in George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So it's not like they're bereft of talent on the outside, and even the tight end. I mean, heck, the one Ross Dwelley. He's a guy that should be used more than he is. So
big day for Ross Dwelley. I forgot about that. Ross and River really should be partying right now, but not too much because you guys need to study and work out and lots to be expected of you. Raymond says they invested in the weak link of the team, the offense. That's true. They only drafted a few defensive players in the last 2 years. They drafted Kinlaw last year, that's it, and three DBs this year. Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess next year it's going to be all defense.
they filled all the weak links, even across the board. You went into this draft knowing they had quarterback was going to be one. You knew that they had the receiver was the only spot that people thought they'd fill that they didn't, right? But you knew they got a couple of cornerback.
I like that.
But you knew they had to get a couple cornerbacks. They got those. You knew they had to get a safety. They got that. And then these two running backs are really big boys.
Yeah, and the two offensive linemen is great. Love that. And quarterback seems pretty good too. It's important to get a quarterback. All right, so let's talk big picture now. Draft strategy. I try to bring it up with Kyle like, hey, it seems like you made it a point to like supercharge the run game. What are your expectations? And he's like, no, we don't work that way. We just make a pick and then we make another pick and we make another pick and that's the way it goes. Okay, I don't know. It seems to me like they had a strategy to really take this run game, which went from second in the league in 2019 to 15th in the league in 2020 and make it elite once again. Do you think they succeeded and do you like the strategy? First of all, did you like the approach? Is that the right approach and did they succeed?
Yeah, I like the approach. Like I said a little bit earlier, I love physical football. I love, it's great watching the ball go down the field on a pass, but when you can come out and just beat the heck out of the guy across from you and just run the ball down their throats, there's nothing better than that. And that's what they did in this draft, and they've done that over the last week or so. They've added bulk to the running game. They added a big guy up front that can really, that's probably going to be a starter this year if all works out. And they added a quarterback they can put packages in. So I think their draft strategy was to get bigger and tougher and more physical, and they did that well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like, you think you bring in this quarterback, Trey Lance, he didn't throw that much in college. How are you going to ask him to throw 400 times as a rookie? Well, they won't. They freaking won't. These are the 49ers. This is the team that passed the ball 8 times in the NFC Championship game. Their MO is to pass it as little as possible. And that just works just fine for Trey Lance. He can run the ball 8 to 10 times a game. If he's only throwing 20 times a game to start off, that means their running game is dominant. And they have 6 running backs plus him. He could be their most dynamic runner on the team. And everyone else could complement him. Like when he's in the backfield next to Trey Sermon, defenses are going to be most worried about Trey Lance. And Trey Sermon's going to be the one gouging him for 100 yards. It's going to be very interesting. And I think if they want to have him play right away and sort of recreate what the Steelers did with Ben Roethlisberger, this is the modern equivalent. The quarterback is part of the running game, and it seems like it could be a whole lot like what the Ravens have going on in Baltimore. They even got J.K. Dobbins' replacement, Trey Sermon. They played the same freaking offense. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I remember too, like when Shanahan unveiled this offense in 2012, I felt like the Niners were looking at it with Alex Smith being like, oh, we could do that. We could do that with Colin Kaepernick, and then they did. And they were like 6 months or like 3 months behind. Now I feel like, again, Kyle has been in competition with Greg Roman to see who can be the number one run game guy in the league. And Shanahan fell back, and he's looking like, well, maybe I can get my quarterback involved too. Maybe I can do a little bit of the stuff you do. And Kyle might beat him out this year. I think the Niners and the Ravens are going to be, once again, 2 best running games. I think it's going to be good.
And I think if that's what they do, if that's the direction that Shanahan wants to go, the thing that's nice about that is that he's got a much better passing system, I think, than Greg Roman does, and I think that he's got a quarterback that's going to prove to be better than Roman's quarterback, and also I think he's got a quarterback better than who he had when he did this with Washington with RG3. I think this guy's better.
Well, that's high praise because RG3 was the offensive rookie of the year and Lamar Jackson was an MVP. So I agree with you. I think that's why this guy is so intriguing. He has crazy, crazy potential. I'm not going to say the word upside because my dad might be watching and he just every time he's like, oh, is that my son? Sorry. Tommy says, can Smack Cones beat out? I think you're saying can Mac.
Yeah, he's Mac Jones.
Rashawn Pitt? Yeah. The expectation is that he might.
That's why they got him.
Given every opportunity. Yeah. Ron says, do you think the Niners will use Trey like the Saints use Taysom Hill as a special weapon given his speed and size until he's ready?
Yeah, they could. They should definitely have some packages in every game this year for him to come in and play if he's not the starter.
Yeah, we talked about this last night. If he's not ready week 1, you give him a package. 2 passes, 2 runs, 2 play action, dropbacks, whatever. 6 throws, 6 plays, 10 plays. You got to. Because he's one of your best athletes, just like Taysom Hill is in New Orleans, and he's the future of your team at quarterback, and Jimmy's not that great. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to go back and look at the 2012 Niners team and see how Harbaugh did it.
Yeah, because they did. Because we should do that because that's, we know that they did that and they brought him in, but it would be interesting to go back and kind of look at that process again.
They did it, and it was kind of controversial. I remember they did it against the Giants and lost, and I think Harbaugh was blamed. Like, you lost because you don't have stability at quarterback, and eventually, as soon as Alex got hurt, Harbaugh used it as his opportunity to end the platoon, and who knows if he was right. Ricky D says, sorry, what are you saying?
No, go ahead.
Ricky D says, do you think the Niners should have stayed at 43 and taken Asante Samuel Jr., or do you agree with trading back to 48 and picking up Banks? This is, I guess, the key question.
I'm fine with the trade because I think they needed to get tougher inside. And so when you look at the 49ers, they have Laken Tomlinson and Daniel Brunskill. Both those guys are going to be gone probably after this year because they're in the end of their contract. So now you've got Tomlinson's replacement on the roster, and you may have the replacement for Brunskill as well with Moore. So I agree with it. I think it was the right way to go. Plus, that trade back allowed them to get the running back that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think it was the right way to go too. Asante Samuel's really good. Again, he's 5'9". I think ideally they were looking for a number one cornerback who's 6'1". Well, guess what? Those guys go in the first round. So if the Niners ever want to get one of those guys, they're really going to have to draft one in the first round. They haven't drafted a corner before round 3 since I was in high school, and I don't get it. But maybe next year they will, because all of a sudden they listen to us and they take our suggestions, and I'm extremely flattered. So next year, guys, a draft. Next year, you should probably draft a cornerback high because they're never going to drop. They're not. And maybe this Ambry Thomas guy is good, but he's not as good as Tyson Campbell. I bet you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these guys are both 6 foot 5'11", so they're both bigger than Asante Samuel. Anyway.
Correct. All right, so that was one thing that the Niners did was the run game. The other thing they did was add depth to their secondary. I've kind of alluded to how I feel about the way they went about it. But that doesn't mean you have to feel that way. What do you think about the way the Niners approached their secondary in this draft?
So we talked about this earlier, and I told you I was going to come back to it. And it kind of also goes to their overall draft strategy. And I like the pick because I like this whole draft, everything they've done. This is one of the first times that you can look at it in recent history where you can look at the 49ers draft and say, there's no picks that you say, what the heck was that, right? Everybody makes sense when you really look at it.
Yeah.
Overall, and a guy that follows both of us reached out and he said this reminded him of the 1986 draft, and I think that's a great call because if you go back and you remember the 1986 draft, that was the 49ers had won the Super Bowl in '84. They had lost early in the playoffs in '85, and the whole deal with that '86 draft was Walsh went into that draft realizing that the 49ers were getting old and they needed to rebuild the roster, and they didn't take the same path as what they did here, but you saw them build.
Did they trade down?
They kept trading down.
Yeah.
They didn't even draft anybody in the first round, but they built a ton of depth, and then that depth ended up being what built them the Super Bowl in '88. It's what got them to the Super Bowl in '89. It's what got them within going to a three-peat in '90. That draft, kind of going back to this depth of the secondary piece, they drafted Tim McKyer in the 3rd round. And they drafted Don Griffin in the 6th round, and those were their 2 starting quarterbacks in all 3 of those in those 3 Super Bowl those, during that run. So that's what kind of where I
Seifert was pretty good.
Yeah, he was, and I remember just there's just a lot on that draft that's out there, and one of the things that they talked about.
It's the most legendary draft ever. If you're a little younger, it's the legendary Walsh draft. Who was it? Was it John Taylor, Rathman? It was like.
It was Rathman, McKyer, Taylor, Haley, Steve Wallace, Kevin Fagan, Don Griffin. All those guys became studs for the 49ers. And not only that, but if you go back and the guys that the 49ers had in their coaching staff back then a lot of those guys became coaches. I can't remember the secondary coach, but he became a head coach of the Eagles at one point. And anyway, through that draft process, it was like, yes, thank you.
Ray Rhodes.
So, it was like, hey, hands up.
Got you. I got you. These are people my dad covered, so I would know.
Yeah, so it was like with both like the McKyer wasn't a pick that they were sold on. And it basically became, hey, Ray, can you get this guy to be a starter? And he said, yeah. And the same thing with the pick of Don Griffin. Anyway, if you guys have a chance to go back, you can find it on just Google 1986 49ers draft, and there's some really good stories out there that really explain that whole process. And I won't bore you with that anymore. But I think that this draft could become. It makes sense when you consider the Super Bowl in 19. They fell off because of injuries and issues, and getting kind of old in 2020, and now they're rebuilding their team.
I guess I put this category into our show just so I could find one opportunity to complain. I'm not going to complain that much, but all I'm saying is, I guess you can't have a perfect draft. Maybe you can, but if there's one thing I would point to in this draft that wasn't perfect, was that I think they went quantity over quality in secondary. They got 3 guys after pick 100. Great to get 3 guys, 1 strong safety, 1 nickel, 1 outside. That's great. I mean, three long-term backups, if they get that, that's great. But I really would have liked someone who could be like the starting number 1 corner next year, or this year if Jason Verrett got hurt. But realistically, that's tough to find. They didn't have a second. They would have to like do the Brandon Ayuk trade from last year and get him to 25 and do something like that. They didn't have it. So that's one. I feel like it's an issue for the team. It's going to be an issue for the team all season. But say Levy.
Yeah, that's where the trade up for the quarterback hurts you, because you don't want to be trading like your second round pick from next year, which would have helped them trade up in that second round or end of the first round. So that's where that becomes a negative. Okay, and to go back to your last thing, you had mentioned about how you have to get a corner like in that top 75, right, to be your stud. Usually. And here I am talking about McKyer and how good he was, even though he was a 3rd round pick. He was drafted at 64.
Boom.
So that fits your what you're saying. So it's really good there.
Every once in a while you'll find a Richard Sherman, but again, like he had a great career not because of his athleticism. After that pick 75, I mean, you're either taking a guy who like broke his leg, or had played the position for a year, or who knows, or you're getting a nickel back, something like that. Friendly Lukey Tube says, other than Warner, are our linebackers adequate? Yeah, I like Greenlaw.
Oh yeah. This is they have a really good linebacker core.
Yeah, this is Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryan's baby right there. That's what they're best at, is developing that. Incredible draft. Can't wait to see how the team evolves. Yeah, I got the feeling watching this draft, it's the best draft I've covered. But we'll see. I mean, the one in 2011 was before I was on the beat. Yeah,
this is one where you can't really get too. This one you're not going to be able to do, be too down on it.
Well, let's be clear though. I mean, we're enthusiastic, but 5 years from now, the grade of this draft is pretty much 90% going to depend on Trey Lance. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, no, totally. We're all excited right now, but we'll see it starting to play out in August and September. That's when we'll be actually,
Yeah, and like Banks and Sermon and Moore could be great, but if Trey Lance is Mitchell Trubisky, no one's going to be like, hey, you know what? That was a great draft. But I'm not saying he's not going to be Mitchell Trubisky. I'm just saying. Graham says from Gold Coast, Australia. Hey, nice to meet you, Graham. You feeling a fullback heir apparent to Juice will be through the via the draft free agent one day? They gave him like a 5-year extension.
Yeah, they gave him a long-term extension, so I don't think that's down the road. That's going to be way down the road now.
Yeah, and it's tough to get fullbacks. It's like college football doesn't create him anymore. He's the best fullback in the league. He's also the only fullback in the league, one of 4.
Right.
Yeah, but good question. Thanks for the question all the way from the Gold Coast. That's a very far away. Rifle One says, Grant, I feel like I've been real negative on your page during the draft, so I'm paying you for it. Haha, thanks. I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I wanted Fields, but I'm happy with Lance. Oh, and Sermon, y'all ain't seen nothing yet. He's coming.
Yep. I've been saying that since last night. That pick right there got me super excited, and I'm usually pretty reserved, that, and that one got me really pumped.
I've been trying to think of a pro comparison for Sermon, because I love pro comparisons. And I can see why Kyle likes him. He's got that upright running style, perfect for Kyle, because that's the kind of guy you want running outside the tackles. He'll get less big-time hits. But also, he's really good running between the tackles. He's really wide and great balance. Reminds me of Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, that's what you said. Kareem Hunt makes sense. I said like a smaller version of Marshawn Lynch just because of that, because of the fact that he when he really gets going, he makes it hard for him to get tackled. So that's where I go with Lynch on that one. But he's not Marshawn, but he has those qualities. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and like he's not going to be one of these home run hitters like Raheem Mostert or Elijah Mitchell, but he's just relentless. And I don't know. I mean, at Ohio State, every run seemed like 10 yards, and he would like bounce off someone and fall forward for 4 yards. It's not going to be like that in the NFL. But you saw the kind of success that J.K. Dobbins had from Ohio State going to that spread offense to the Ravens and playing with Lamar Jackson. He averaged 6 yards a carry last year. I'm sure the Niners are thinking, well, we could do the same thing with Trey Sermon and Trey Lance. And they can.
Yeah, definitely.
Trade for Gilmore? Should we trade Garoppolo?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think the Patriots want to compete. I don't know. I think they want to compete.
They do. I mean, they really built a really good roster. I think they definitely gave whoever the quarterback is going to have a lot better targets to throw to this year than they did last year.
Who will be better, Trey Sermon or Eric Sermon, EPMD? Wow. It's going to be real tough for Trey Sermon to ever make the cultural impact that Eric Sermon had on the world. So come on. I mean, that's a high bar. If he could just be better than Jerick McKinnon, that'd be a start. He doesn't have to be the greatest sermon of all time. Just the greatest sermon in Bay Area history would be a start. Nice reference, though. Good stuff, Daryl.
Jerick McKinnon's a Chief now, so come on now.
Yeah. Eric Sermon had green eyes, too, I think. So that's going to be tough to match. Steven said, hi from the UK. Who is wanting Jimmy if we get shut out? Great question. Houston?
Yeah, there's
Houston? Maybe. They got Davis Mills.
Yeah, but Davis Mills isn't going to go out there. If they're expecting Davis Mills to be the starting quarterback this year, they're in the world of hurt.
That's a good point.
Because so that would be a situation. Yeah, you could have Jimmy go in there and start for them for a year or two. Well, Mills gets his feet underneath him. Real
quick, were you surprised by Ian Book going to the Saints?
Yeah, that one doesn't make. It doesn't make sense to me.
Interesting.
He's not very good. I watched him a couple of times this year and was left wondering what the heck with him.
Anyway, Prince KO says, assuming Jimmy is a starter week 1, meaning Trey not ready yet, how many bad games can he have before Trey is named the starter? 2? 1?
Yeah. 2.
Half.
That's it. Yeah.
2.
1 or 2. Mm-hmm.
Niner fans won't have much patience for Jimmy. They used to love Jimmy Garoppolo, and now it's like, man, it's amazing how fans just switch up on a guy. Hey, man, you're not the guy anymore. Thanks for everything. We love you, though.
Yep. That's 100% it, and I don't think it'll be more than a game or two because they're already, I think, frustrated with him enough. And if Lance goes out there and shows that he's even close to him, I think he's going to be starting.
I agree. I would expect Lance to be starting pronto. I think there's one more, and then we'll hit up the last topic real quick. Hold on. Johnny Ellis says, do you guys think Talanoa Hufanga could be the Kittle of the defense, measuring energy and aggressiveness? Love the channel, BT Dub. Keep it up. I see what you mean. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see his interview with the press afterwards, but it sure sounded like he had a presence about him and that he's a guy that could really do that. And yeah, that would be great because I think also, and even if depending on where he is on defense, he's, from what I understand, he's going to be doing a lot of special teams. So that would be perfect for them anyway too, because they really need to improve their special teams play as well.
Hey man, I missed it. So ask it again. Don't pay. I'll find it and answer it. All right. Sorry about that. All right, we're going to go to our last topic, and it is going all in for a quarterback. Let's not forget that was the chief thing the Niners did in this draft. Sure, they supercharged their running game. Yes, they added depth to the secondary, and those things were important. But what they did in this draft, what they will be judged for and remembered for, is mortgaging 3 drafts to get Trey Lance. Do you think they went about that the right way?
Yeah, because I think I really think that if they hadn't jumped up, if that was the guy that they wanted, they wouldn't have got him because I think he would have been off the board well before they got to 12. Even if they had tried to just trade up to like if you remember earlier on in the process, I wasn't really high on trading up for any of these guys, and I had said maybe if you're going to trade up, you go to 7 in that range, and I still don't think they would have got this guy at 7. I think he would have been off the board before that point. So to get to where they had to, I think it was a good move. Another thing about this was Kyle Shanahan's well known as to be a guy that's he's very much a control freak in a way. And jumping up to that 3 spot allowed the 49ers and Shanahan to control the process of seeing these guys and control the guy that they were going to get. So another thing to think about with that. What do you think?
That's a good point. It seemed like if they said they liked Trey Lance the whole time. Maybe. Doesn't matter. They got Trey Lance. And right before they traded up, Trey Lance had a pro day and they couldn't go because they were trying to be sneaky. They felt they had to, be covert. Well, that stinks. And they needed to do a lot of research on him. They did it. They moved up. I think they made the right choice. They may whiff. It's not a foolproof science, but I think their process was A+. I think their choice is the one I would have made. And I think that this was a hell of a draft. And this is the most important decision they made. And I think they made it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Your guy asked his question again now.
All right. Okay. I'm going to answer it. Oh, but there was another one before it. I'm going to answer his first and then I'll answer yours and then I'll get back to his. You missed my first super chat. You think Troy Warner will get drafted or UDFA? Oh, he didn't get drafted. I don't know. I'm not watching anymore. What do you think about Troy Warner?
I don't know a whole lot about him, so I didn't really watch much BYU defense. But the fact that he's Fred Warner's brother is, I think, probably why everybody's so interested in him. The 49ers definitely didn't draft him, but possibly, as an undrafted free agent, that'd be awesome if he didn't get drafted to bring him in.
Yeah, I hope he's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, just from a brother standpoint, that'd be kind of cool.
Every year, there's a few undrafted free agents that come to the team that you're like. As a journalist, you're like, man, I got to write like 2 profiles on you, don't I? There was a few years ago, it was Jerry Rice's son, Jerry Rice Jr., got a tryout at like it's like, you're not even going to, okay. And everyone interviewed him, man. He almost felt embarrassed, like, man, I'm going to be a real estate agent in 3 weeks. Like, come on. I'm sorry. Nice kid, though, really nice kid. Brock said Niners fans may not like the comparison, Sermon having young Gore tendencies, a bit shifty, but enough power to always fall forward. Thoughts? I totally see what he means. I was watching his highlights today, and when he strings cuts together, the way I describe Gore is it looks like he's skiing. It's very fluid. He doesn't have to stop and gather. It's just boom, like a downhill slalom. And Sermon kind of has that movement too. Also, about 15 pounds strong dudes fall forward. Yeah, I think there's something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a comp that I saw last night. It makes sense, especially when you watch him run through when he's being hit. His contact stability. Contact stability,
yeah, absolutely. Nick Navarro says, "Did you guys catch how Lynch goes all in on round 5 because Kittle and some other picks?" Is that what he said? I mean, they do okay. I don't know.
Yeah, that's their round 5 and they're undrafted free agents, right? That's their sweet spot.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, good spot. Good strategy. Chris says, what do you gentlemen think a realistic timetable for Lance to take the starting job? Realistic.
Week 5.
Yeah.
Really?
I think week 5.
I think it'll be by midseason at the latest, but probably around week 5. I think that's when he'll be there.
I agree. One more. Camelot's Red and Gold said we paid a heavy premium, maybe more than we should have for Trey. If he becomes a perennial Pro Bowler, All-Pro, maybe league MVP, top 5 quarterback, won't matter. Yep. And if he doesn't, it will. Because the pressure is that Kyle Pitts was 1 pick after. And he'll always be compared to him the way that, Jamarcus Russell is compared to Calvin Johnson. Now, Jamarcus Russell, didn't really matter who was taken after him. He embarrassed himself. I don't expect Trey Lance to embarrass himself. I don't. Seems like the most mature player that the Niners have taken in a while. I don't think he has those kind of questions. It's just, can he bring it? I think he can. People say he's inexperienced. If he's a natural, it really won't matter. Jack.
Yeah, I go back. I really want to see him start week 1. I want to see him beat Jimmy out. I want to see him play the whole year. I think if he does, with the way that this offense is, he'd have a shot at winning the Rookie of the Year. I really do.
And again, the way they've set up the offense, it seems like, why not? If they're going to be a run-first team and they have 11 running backs, plus Deebo Samuel, who gets 3-4 carries a game, then why? I mean, they're going to throw like 15 times a game anyway. Trey Lance could add to their running game, and those play-action bootlegs would be devastating. I mean, how many third downs does he have to convert? And if he doesn't have it as a passer yet, he can scramble. I mean, really, I think he should be starting.
Yeah.
Yes, he's terrible, and I don't expect that.
Yeah, and I tweeted out something a couple weeks ago where the way that the 49ers were spending in free agency to bring back their core on their defense, all kind of lean to the fact that they're going to be playing a rookie quarterback this year because they want to have that back. That, and then you throw in the fact that they built a running game behind it. All this stuff points to Lance being the starter.
Absolutely. Dweep says depth is still an issue at wide receiver given Debo's injury record. Sherfield, Benjamin, Sanu, James looking likely to make up roster. I think there's a lot of depth at wide receiver. I don't know if you like it, but Craycraft, Benjamin, Sanu, James, Hurd. Actually, what they have is depth. I don't know if you like it, though, if it's starting caliber.
I like Richie. I like Richie. Yeah, I really like Richie James. I think Richie James is the guy who, the more they throw it, he's the opposite of a lot of these guys, right? He's one of those guys that everybody wants to see him play more, and when he does play more, he actually performs. Whereas a lot of times people are like, I want to see this guy play more, and then he gets out there and he doesn't play very well. James is the opposite of that. When they give him the ball, he continually makes plays.
Yeah, he was fantastic last year. In that one game against Green Bay, he was the best player in the field for the Niners. Matt says chances on a running back moving to the slot.
I don't. None of these guys that they drafted are guys that would fill that kind of a role. These guys are all bigger guys, all running backs. They don't have a. I understand what he's saying there. They don't have that kind of player. That would have been like if they had drafted Amari Rodgers,
right? Or like that kind of player. Yeah, agree. Or
the guy
Carter,
or the kid from UCLA.
Yeah, it's Felton. Yes. Sebastian says hopefully there's a preseason so we can get more rep. Yep. Hopefully, it seemed like they're going to be a preseason, right?
It seems like everything pointing to the fact that there's going to be, camps and preseason and everything.
It's just that there may not be OTAs and mini camps. Because mini camp maybe, but OTAs is voluntary, and the Players Association right now is recommending that players don't go. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything though with the 49ers where the 49ers players have come out and said that they're not going to do that. Maybe I missed something, but I haven't seen that.
They may have. I'll look into that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's our show, but then Akumazu's Fusion. Man, I can't read. I just learned that I can't read. No, I learned it a few weeks ago on this channel. That cornerback from Michigan is a switchable player. You think SF will utilize him like Jim Harbaugh did, similar to Peppers? Dang.
Yeah, I get what he's saying here, and I didn't mention it earlier, but in my research for the piece that I'm writing up right now, this is a guy who, again, he played inside and outside as a corner. In 2018, they actually used him on offense. He actually caught 2 balls and ran the ball once for 11 yards. So he could be that kind of a guy that plays a little bit of both ways, and he shows athleticism to do it.
Yeah. If so, that's good because, again, they didn't really draft these corners in prime starting position. So when you're taking a guy after pick 100, like a little bit of versatility because there's no guarantee he's ever going to be a starter. Not to be a downer, sorry. Newt Lab, TTT. Who needs a starter when you got Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley? I like those two anyway. Newt Lab, TTV says, what about Jerick McKinnon to the Chiefs? Also, did my research on our new running backs. Love the selection. It's going to be tough to make the roster. Why did the Chiefs sign Jerick McKinnon? Did they not see him last year? They should have asked us.
He's a jet. I mean, look at they can use him as a quarterback, run the read option with him.
This reminds me of the Niners trading for Dee Ford. It's like you really thought the Chiefs were like joking about Dee Ford. You think there wasn't a reason they didn't want Dee Ford? It's like you thought the Niners would just gave up on Jerick McKinnon after giving him $30 million. They were like, you know what? We've seen enough. Like we've sunk enough money into this. We'll just let him go. Like he's done. Like donezo. I don't know what they thought. Maybe they were looking at some 2016 tape.
maybe. Yeah,
I don't know.
Doesn't make sense.
Good question though. I'm gonna let Jack go. I think that's a good show. We did about an hour. Practice squad comes out soon. The weekend is over. I'm tired, man. The draft I always look forward to it, but then covering it is like they made another pick. I don't know who it is. Let me try to say something about it.
Yeah, it just comes at you fast. You got to be on your toes.
But again, thank you, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, for trading out of the 7th round, turning 6 day 3 picks into 4. From the bottom of my heart, that was great. And thank you for taking all of my suggestions. I'm really flattered, and I didn't do that much homework this year, but it's just I'm natural at it. All I have to do is think about it for 2 seconds. Boom, you take my suggestion. Jack, he co-signs the things that I basically steal Jack's ideas. That's how I do it. Is I steal Jack's ideas. It worked out all the best for the Niners this year. The best draft since 1986, courtesy of their quality control department and all of you that call in. Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right. Stay on real quick. I want to talk to you.